once again at the very lovely, not so sunny, a little bit snowy corner of Glenwood and Lunt. We're in the heart of Rogers Park. We're up here on the stage at the Heartland Cafe in the corner of Glenwood and Lunt, and you are listening to another edition of Live from the Heartland Radio. It is the February 21st, and I am your host for this morning's edition. I am Michael James. We have two wonderful guests coming up today. A little bit later, we're going to have Tom Geoghagen, and he is running for Congress in the 5th Congressional District. And we're going to start off with Diana Guelespe, who is a member of the Chicago-Cinquera Sister Cities Network. And Diana will be traveling to El Salvador in the very near future to be an election observer in the upcoming presidential elections there. Good morning to you, Diana.
Good morning, Michael.
Thanks for coming on the show. It was really nice to meet you last week. We had the Athletes United for Peace run, the Sweetheart Run, and the beneficiary of any donations at that time was the Chicago-Cinquera Sister Cities Network, and who were going to send someone down to be an observer in the upcoming elections, and that person is you.
That's right.
And, El Salvador has been in a kind of a general shift in politics in Central and Latin America to the left. It's held on with its the powers of the Arena Party, but things have been slipping since the Civil War ended. Why don't you give us a little background on the political situation and the elections coming up in El Salvador, and then we'll get to your trip going down there.
Okay. Well, right now, the elections coming up will be held on March 15th. Those are the presidential elections. They just had their municipal elections on January 18th last month. And what it is looking like is exactly what you had mentioned, that there is a very strong chance that the major opposing party, the FMLN, will win the presidency. And this will be a very historic change of power for the country, because since the end of the Civil War, there has not been a change of power. The ruling party, Arena, has been in power for at least the last 20 years, so it will be a definite change for the country.
In remembering back in the recesses of my brain some history of El Salvador, there was a long history of basically some genocide. They wiped out not only the Indians in large measure, but went on during the 70s, 60s, 70s when Arena was fighting the FMLN. They did a lot of snatching up of labor organizers and community organizers and killing them. It was quite a situation. And here in the United States, you had what we call the sanctuary movement, and there were a lot of people from El Salvador who had come here and were seeking sanctuary from the Civil War. Can you share any bit of that history with us?
Well, I could tell you that many of the supporters of the sanctuary movement during the Civil War have now become supporters of the Sister Cities Network. And so many of the Chicagoans who are part of the Chicago-Cinquera Sister Cities work through this type of partnership. And so, for example, committee members from Chicago often meet with committee members in Cinquera and kind of work together and exchange learning opportunities. It's really a partnership, and where we assist them in their struggle for justice and peace in their country, and they also assist us, and we learn from them.
When did the Civil War end?
1992, the peace accords were signed.
And since that time, there has been a steady ascendancy into positions of elected positions of power by the former guerrillas, the FMLN.
That's right.
How do you say that? The Frente Marabondo Liberación Nacional?
El Frente Farabundo Martí de Liberación Nacional.
And they first started winning mayoral elections, then they started winning gubernatorial elections, and they came pretty close last election, as I recall, to winning the presidency.
Very close. And in these last municipal elections, they have won the majority of seats in the Legislative Assembly, and they also elected many FMLN mayors to municipalities. Unfortunately, they did lose the San Salvador mayorship, but they have definitely increased their legislative power in the country.
Now, people are predicting that they're going to win, but Arena obviously has had money. In the past, it had U.S. governments backing it, U.S. administrations. What do you think makes it different in this election?
Well, in a sense, as you said, Arena, as the ruling party, they definitely have the financial resources and they have the ability to manipulate the electoral process. And that is, in fact, what we are already seeing. We're hearing reports from, our sister city and other election observers that were there for the municipal elections, that there have been clear violations of certain articles of the peace accords and the Constitution, because Arena is the ruling party. And so, for example, there's been a movement of military forces around the country. So there have been military deployments to certain rural areas. One of those rural areas is our sister city, Cinquera. There have already been, last month I believe there were about 150 soldiers deployed to that area. The government alleges that it has deployed these military forces because there are armed groups in those areas. But we know that these areas, especially we know Cinquera, has a very, very low delinquency rate. But what we do know is Cinquera is a very well organized community, as many sister cities communities are. And so we feel that they are being targeted really by the ruling party.
Well, when you mentioned the military, we're actually talking about a military that historically has been trained at the infamous School of the Americans at Fort Benning, Georgia, and people in the WLUW listening audience and those people out of Loyola certainly know that a lot of people have gone down to demonstrate against the training of military officers from Latin America at that facility. My question to you would be regarding the military was after the Civil War, when the FMLN certainly was a powerful military force on its own, was there any rapprochement around military, or was it just in the political circles? In other words, are there any of the forces from the former guerrillas incorporated into the military, or no?
I'm not quite sure about that, to be honest. But what we have seen of these types of, military movements is that there are articles in the peace accords that clearly state the military cannot be used for purposes of public security. In those cases, the National Civilian Police should be used. And so the use of the military in this way is clearly to provoke fear and intimidation in the population and sway their vote in the upcoming election.